بكم مرة أخرى ونستكمل جلسات المؤتمر الإقليمي الخامس للشبكة العربية لضمان الجودة في التعليم العالي، والذي جاء بعنوان استشراف مستقبل جودة التعليم، أثر التقنيات الذكية والبعد الدولي على منظومة جودة التعليم. ستتحدث الجلسة الثانية عن التقنيات الذكية والذكاء الاصطناعي في التعليم العالي، ويسعدنا أن ندعو المتحدث الرئيسي الثاني الأستاذ أ.كاتو روليا، مدير أول للشركات العالمية في جامعة توتنغهام ترنت ومستشار فني ومؤسس UniGlobal Careers، فليتفضل مشكورا.
السلام عليكم. It's my pleasure to welcome everybody to the afternoon keynote lecture. I am honored to introduce our speaker, Mr. Kato Rوليا, who is a senior global partnerships manager for Africa, Middle East, the Americas at Nottingham Trent University, where he supports the International Development Office and Enterprise Knowledge Exchange departments. He joined Nottingham Trent University in 2016, supporting global mobility and overseas validation service, and then moved on to manage mobility online and study abroad and international opportunities online portal and content management systems. He works extensively in web and digital design, data analysis, digital strategy, consultancy, with particular focus on international activities, and is an avid supporter of artificial intelligence in education. He runs a digital consulting service, UniDigital, outside university hours and during weekends, helping businesses, education institutions, and artists create and enhance their online presence on Web 2 and 3. He's going to talk with us about smart technology and artificial intelligence applications in higher education. Kato, the floor is yours.
Many thanks, Dr.Ala, for the kind introduction. Just before I start, I would like to extend my thanks to the Arab Network for Quality Assurance in Higher Education, as well as the Oman Authority for Accreditation and Assurance in Higher Education as well. I'm privileged to be here. And again, many thanks to Dr. Tariq for inviting me, and many thanks for all the colleagues here that have been so hospitable. As my first time in Oman, but also in the Middle East, I have to say I'm really impressed with the reception I've had here, and I've had really interesting discussions with colleagues from a variety of backgrounds and interests. So today, the main topic will be smart technology and artificial intelligence applications in higher education. And I think I really like this title, Smart Technology, Artificial Intelligence. If we think about the words smart technology, and if we think about the words artificial intelligence, do they actually combine well? When we think of the word artificial, what does artificial mean? Probably something that's not very human, probably something that is a bit less authentic, and probably something that's not very smart. So can we call artificial intelligence smart? I guess this is the big debate that we've had for the past 12 months, and this is what we're going to be exploring in this particular presentation, and hopefully in the Q&A session after the presentation. I'm having some technical issues with the controller. Smart technology indeed. one. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, okay. Well, great. Fantastic. So now going back to my question, how smart is artificial intelligence? Well, let's watch a very quick video. My colleagues at the back could please play the video.
مرحبا أعزائي الزملاء، سعيد بوجودي في موسكو عمان للحديث عن التكنولوجيا الذكية والذكاء الاصطناعي. أطلع على تبادل الأفكار ومناقشة موضوع ذو صلة في هذه اللحظة الحاسمة لرحلتنا التكنولوجية.
Right. Is that smart, really? And you can be completely honest. I wouldn't say it's very smart. What I would say is smart, how that would have been smart. So this is just to give an example. This is one of the latest technology in what is called deepfake technology that's able to mimic my voice, mimic my face, and then translate absolutely everything that I'm saying. Now, for the non-Arabic speakers here that might have not understood what I said or what my digital version said, was that, I was welcoming all my colleagues from Moscow, Amman. Now, any sort of smart artificial intelligence system will be smart enough that when a translation would be done, if the words Moscow and Amman would have been incorrectly translated, it would have been easy to deduct, especially as a human being, that the closest to Moscow and Amman would be Muscat in Oman. However, the artificial intelligence system did not really understand that, and plus, it couldn't even understand that Amman and Moscow are two cities, so I couldn't really have been in two cities at the same time, at least not in this lifetime anyway. So the whole point, I think, of this technology and the application of artificial intelligence in higher education or in any sort of areas that we work closely with would be to be smart about applying this technology. Over the past 12 months, there's been a very rapid advancement of technology. There's been an overhype and an underhype, I would say, in generative artificial intelligence. And I think this is the right time when we have to start asking the right questions. And probably there's way more questions than there's answers. But only by asking the right questions can we come up with the right answers eventually to make sure that we implement this technology in a suitable way and not fall into the allures of futuristic promises. Now let's talk about the term artificial intelligence. Here we have two very interesting definitions. So in 2017, it was fairly acknowledged across the sector that artificial intelligence mainly comprised of computing systems that are able to engage in human-like processes, such as learning, adapting, synthesizing, self-correction, and the use of data for complex processing tasks. Fast forward 2023, November, this was literally just a few weeks ago, the OECD updated their definition of artificial intelligence to include the latest advancements in the technology. Now, to state that an AI system is a machine-based system that for explicit or implicit objectives infers from the input it receives how to generate outputs such as predictions, content, recommendations, or decisions that can influence physical or virtual environments. And this is really what I want to emphasize. Decisions that can influence physical or virtual environments. Now here we're really talking about a technology that has unprecedented powers potentially on us humans and the processes that we're used to day by day. What we're talking about here is the emergence of semi or fully autonomous systems that will eventually be able to make decisions pretty much by themselves. And this can cause both excitement, but also fear and anxiety. And again, I think the sooner we take action, the sooner we start the right discussions and we put in place measures to implement this effectively, the better we will cope with the very rapid advancements of the artificial intelligence sector. As I always do in all my lectures, I would like to recommend a few readings, I think, from leading thinkers and professors around the world, especially on how artificial intelligence works, how the bias in the artificial intelligence models can influence the outcomes in different processes and different software being developed, but also on how it can be used in education, and also how we as educators can shape the direction artificial intelligence goes into. And again, I know everyone talks about artificial intelligence. However, it doesn't seem like many people really understand the difference between generative artificial intelligence and artificial intelligence pre-2022. And here I can explain it in two very simple concepts that have pretty much been the phenomena of the year. First, we have deep learning and hallucination. Hallucinate, ironically, has been the Cambridge Dictionary's word of the year in 2023. And what hallucination means in terms of artificial intelligence is not far from what hallucination means in terms of us humans and how we process or we think about our so-called sense of reality. And I think the main issue with these two concepts, these two phenomena, is that no one really understands how they came about or why they happen. So let's take the first one, deep learning. Deep learning is a subset or a sub-area of the artificial intelligence learning mechanisms. And it especially refers to how the current generative AI models have the capacity to learn and train themselves. So here we're talking about an autonomous system that learns by the data is being given and goes through a self-learning process until it gets better and better, better at resolving maths questions, better at processing data, probably not as good as translating from English to Arabic, but still pretty impressive. And the scary thing about this, or the anxious thing about it, is that no scientist, no researcher can explain how the deep learning process works and how these models are able to train themselves and become better and better at processing tasks and understanding human language. Going back to hallucinations. Hallucination, again, is a very or non-understood process yet. What hallucination basically means is when an AI system goes off the training parameters and goes off the instructions it's been given, it simply starts making up things that it presents as facts, or it simply goes rogue and it starts taking actions that no one's instructed the system to do. And again, no one really understands why these systems hallucinate, what the process is, and what the right measures to stop hallucinating is. So again, I think we're in a pivotal mark, pretty much in a historical moment now, where we're facing with a system that we don't really know much about, that is advancing at a faster rate than we can actually implement policy. And this is extremely important in the education sector because we as knowledge producers should be at the forefront of at least directing where the application of artificial intelligence goes. What can we learn from the industry? I mean, the industry is pretty much ahead when we compare to the higher education area, simply because they take more risks. But we can learn from the industry. We can learn to adopt certain methodologies or certain use cases that have been used to improve a variety of areas, from customer experience to supply chain, human resources, knowledge creation, research and development, etc., etc. And our colleagues from the industry are very rightfully anxious about AI replacing their functions, replacing their roles, simply because AI systems will process data a lot faster, a lot better. It will automate a lot of processes. However, I don't think we should have or we should hold the same feelings in higher education. Simply because I don't believe that AI will ever be able to replace the knowledge production system in higher education. What I personally believe is that AI can be used as a tool and as a co-pilot rather than as a replacement. If we learn to harness the power of artificial intelligence, especially the generative artificial intelligence, then we can remove tasks that have historically been repetitive, time-consuming, of low particular value, and then we can replace those tasks with more value-focused activities or roles. So if we think of an example, administrators, if we could remove the repetitive tasks administrators do, it wouldn't be a case of completely removing their roles, but rather giving them other higher value activities, such as increasing student participation satisfaction or increasing the quality of teaching and learning. And again, since I've come to teaching and learning, artificial intelligence can be of great help in customizing educational content and truly personalizing the student experience. One of the main struggles that universities have across the world dealt with is that they harvest an enormous amount of data, but there's simply not enough resource to make use of that full data. We have data on pretty much everything about students, about what they like, about how well they perform, about what their interests is, about what their strengths are. So really, if you're thinking of where is the future of higher education assisted by artificial intelligence, where does the future lie? I would say that the future lies in truly personalized learning and teaching. And we can go beyond the classroom, where students can be taught with very personalized methodologies, but also in terms of assessments. Assessment could be truly personalized if we were to make the best use of artificial intelligence systems. And then again, students would feel that they learn at their own pace and that they're assessed at their own pace based on their outcomes or based on their expectations. Automating administrative tasks. And again, going back to automation sounds like a very scary thing, but it's something that we've gone through for decades, for hundreds of years now, and it's never really replaced, so to speak, the human aspects. And as I mentioned previously, a lot of challenges in higher education administration, the repetitive tasks, can be replaced, and those can empower staff to provide better learning experiences or better experiences for students. And here I can give an example from my own institution, where we've delved into technology since about 2017, since once I started working for Nottingham Trent University. And we've made a full use of the Microsoft suite, which we found to be the most beneficial environment that we could apply a variety of technology. And just to give you a very concrete example, what one of our systems looked like before, it's a very traditional way of taking applications. When a user receives and fills out an application form, then the administrator adds detail to a database or a spreadsheet. Then when that user is then emailed with membership details, then that data is being cleaned and formatted, and then again going into visualization. This is a dedicated part-time resource, for example, with a lot of repetitive, time-consuming tasks, prone to human errors. There's always a delay in reporting, a delay in decision-making, because frankly, having to process hundreds of thousands of applications takes time, and takes staff, and takes money, and puts a lot of pressure on departments that are sometimes not 100% properly resourced. So what did we do to try to address the situation? The simple thing of saying is, oh, let's buy a new software. Let's implement artificial intelligence. Let's automate tasks. Let's hire an external consultant. However, this was not our answer. What we thought of doing, and this is where I'm talking about the smart application of technology, is not adding more technology, but rather looking at making the most of the technology we currently have. For anyone here that's using the Microsoft platform, on average, it's estimated that users that have access to Microsoft enterprise platforms only use about 20% of what it can offer. 20% is minimal. 20% does barely scratch the surface. Once we did an audit of how much we were making use of our current technology, we estimated we were losing about £150,000 a year by not using the services that we had access to. So then we started looking at where do we train, how do we train our staff, what systems can we put in place. And when we looked at the Microsoft platform itself, we managed to automate a whole system, from user submission of a form to details getting added to the form, emails automatically going to applicants, administrators, managers, directors being notified with personalized insights, but also data being automatically visualized and presented to a variety of stakeholders. And to give you an example, this is what the form looks like. Again, it's a very easy Microsoft form that automatically goes into a database on the right-hand side that then is visualized automatically and again personalized for a variety of stakeholders. So this, what you see here, is a very high-level personalized dashboard that's mostly for managers, senior managers, and directors. But then again, there's very different versions of this dashboard that is customized for a variety of stakeholders, whether it's in employability, whether if it's in teaching and learning, whether it's in international activities or research. And again, this is all 100% automated. This system alone has saved us about £23,000 a year, and this is just one. Multiply that by 50, by 100, and we can see how much money we can save without actually reducing the number of staff we have and by increasing the value of the services that we can provide to our students. And of course, we can also talk about research and development using artificial intelligence to help us speed the process that we research with or that our students research with. However, with the caveat of keeping in mind the ethical considerations in AI-assisted research. One system we have been using AI for, especially in research, is in data summarization engines. But again, not just any type of data summarization engines. If you think about the smart application of AI-assisted summarization, a very non-smart way of going about it is asking AI to summarize a document and then using that summarized document. We can't fully trust AI to capture everything that we need from a document. So that's why we use AI as a co-pilot. So what you can see in the screen here, we can see the summary on the left, but then the full text on the right. So anytime we click on any summarized paragraph to the left, we can see in parallel on the right side where the information was summarized from, and we can see the actual full text. So we can, in real time, verify that what's being summarized for us is accurate, but also that nothing crucial has been missed. And again, here, I want to emphasize the importance of using AI as a co-pilot and not as a replacement. This can really speed up anything from literature reviews to research for doctoral purposes, or to simply reading very lengthy reports from a lot of international bodies or organizations relevant to a variety of areas or sections in the sector. When it comes to the learning environment, what we do know is that students will be ahead of us. The new generations are born in technology, and I don't even want to think of what the AI generation would be like. Currently, we've seen both the pre and current generative AI technology and an environment, but we will have generations of students that will know generative AI as a given on a day-to-day basis. That will be integrated in their phones, in their apps, in their games, and they will be expecting that the educational experiences will also include them. So what we've been doing at NTU especially, we've been looking how can we get ahead of the game? How can we reach students in a form that they can understand and respond to us? And what we've done, we've started building chatbots, extremely personalized for learning outcomes and for certain modules, but we have restricted the generative AI artificial intelligence systems. So we have restricted them by using very strict parameters in which they were allowed to work, and then we made it available on their learning blackboards, but also on WhatsApp, because who doesn't use WhatsApp these days? So on the right-hand side there, you see that's an introduction from a chatbot, actually, and that's a message on WhatsApp, where a chatbot is reminding the student that the following day there is a lecture in history. There's a lecture about the fall of the Berlin Wall in the late 1890s, and then the student has to go through a couple of steps, answer some questions to get ready and have a real-like scenario in preparation for the in-person workshop. And we have found that students engage about 80% more with the information we send them via WhatsApp rather than through the blackboards and through the Teams channels that we are using. And of course, to end, there will be a lot of challenges and ethical considerations. One of the main issues with obviously data handling is the privacy and the security aspect of it. A lot of the models that are out there are not 100% transparent on how data is being managed. And there is the risk of data being leaked, of data being misused, of data being manipulated. So we have to take an active stance, first of all, in shaping policy and regulation about the use of artificial intelligence, and that's regulating the technology providers themselves. To give you an example, OpenAI, who owns ChatGPT, provides AI services for 92% of the Forbes top 500 companies. We could really call it a monopoly to a certain extent. They're not open source, they're private, they're closed. We don't really know what happens behind the scenes. We don't know how the data is used for training. So again, here what we recommend at Nottingham Trent University is that all the systems we use are enterprise models with added privacy and security measures into place. So what we've done, instead of using the OpenAI direct enterprise services, we're using Microsoft. However, Microsoft also uses OpenAI. So there is a conundrum there. But still, the Microsoft privacy and security issues into place are way more transparent and way more reassuring than the counterparts at the OpenAI service. Now going back to the hardest part, and going back maybe to the final discussion that we'll have, is the implementation of generative AI. And here I don't think implementation of generative AI is any different than digital transformation. And I know there's going to be quite a few talks on digital transformation as well. And what we have to keep in mind when it comes to digital transformation is that it is a process, and we have to make it a human-centered process. More technology doesn't mean better outcomes. More technology doesn't mean better services. Some organizations that might not be very advanced in terms of the digital or technological capabilities should not feel like they really need to catch up in case they've been left behind. And what we do, we always advise starting from the very base, starting from the foundational base and working our way up, removing obstacles, communicating the vision, but most importantly, ensuring that the staff is properly trained. So what we're trying to do, especially at Nottingham Trent University, is to train every single staff, not just in generative artificial intelligence, but rather in technology. The pandemic has forced us to rapidly adopt a lot of new tools, a lot of new technological ways of teaching, learning, doing administrative processes, and a lot of our staff had already been left behind then. Now we put artificial intelligence on top of that, and they feel even more overwhelmed. So our approach is a very humane-centric one, starting at the very beginning, listening to the perceptions, implementing training, very personalized training based on anyone's levels, and then adopting the technology step by step in a phase and agile framework. So I believe I can end my presentation here and again go into the questions, answers, thoughts, or any interesting, pertinent discussions about the topic. Many thanks.
Thank you, Kato, for a interesting presentation on an intriguing topic. While we're getting the iPad, I think the iPad must be somewhere. If you could just remind us what the difference is between AI and generative AI, or if you could explain what generative AI is in simple terms.
Yes, of course. So generative AI is a very small subset of artificial intelligence. And it is a new type of model that's only emerged in the last 12 months that was not predicted by any researchers beforehand. And it's a type of AI that can mimic or get very closely to mimicking human interaction in a variety of ways, especially when it comes to producing text, videos, images, and also automating tasks.
We have an interesting question here from Iman Al-Na'mani. Is there an AI tool that verifies if the AI generated information is real or hallucination, if it's correct or human, or is human intelligence required?
I think that would be the ideal. So OpenAI had their own AI verification tool, which they had to shut down because it was simply non-reliable. So I'm afraid the answer is no at the moment. There's no reliable way to verify whether content is human or AI generated, unless we're talking about the video I played at the very beginning. So sometimes it can be obvious, but when it comes to text specifically, if we were to talk about text, there is no reliable way. And to give an example, in the UK, the Quality Assurance Agency advises against using any sort of AI detection systems for tests because they've been found to give a lot of false positives, especially when it comes to the writing of non-native English speakers. So international students, when they write essays, are more likely to be falsely attributed an AI score that's in the 90%, which is not the case. And that's why in the UK we don't use any detection services.
Let me just ask a question related to the video that they presented at the beginning. Would you think that using a technology like this would be a way to internationalize the education process by perhaps having some prominent professors from somewhere have their lectures distributed in other languages?
I think definitely, it's especially when it comes to translation purposes, it can really bridge gaps between different countries, different cultures. So I think on one side, as a linguist myself, I'm extremely excited about the possibility that AI can bring. But on the other hand, I'm frightened because as a linguist, learning another language is like transporting yourself in another culture's way of thinking about the world. If we allow AI to do all the translation for us, where does that leave us? And if we have two AI systems that simply translate from different languages and then communicate amongst themselves, are we really doing the communication then?
And are we losing that human touch when it comes to true communication and understanding one another? So very torn on this.
I think your video was pretty good overall. How can AI be used in quality assurance in higher education? What are some of the areas that you could shed some light on in the accreditation and quality assurance process?
So I think from a quality assurance process, I think what AI excels at the moment, and I think that's what we should focus on. Where can we get the most value from AI? Is data processing. So as I previously mentioned, there's so much data that doesn't get used to its full potential, and we can really implement the AI to better analyze the outputs, student progression rates, the quality of the methodology used, the quality of the teaching, learning. So again, implementing data analytics, data visualization, and then insights based on the data would be a start. And then from there, based on the findings, it can be further refined.
Thank you. And when it comes to the teaching and learning process, would you think AI would be a good alternative? You mentioned that AI is good in repetitive tasks. So things like generating question banks, perhaps then reviewed by humans, to make sure that they are relevant, and grading of assignments as well. Or would you think that cultural bias or the international student syndrome would kick into that as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a very interesting question. And I think when it comes to question banks, it's a great tool. They can easily generate question banks that are human supervised, and they can just be approved or improved or refined by the academic. However, when we go on the assessment side, I think that's where we have to employ a bit more critical thinking when it comes to the inherent biases of these models, just to make sure that certain students are not disadvantaged based on a variety of criteria. So again, I think the key answer here is, as long as it's human supervised and as long as it's used as an enhancement of the current processes, it can really speed up a lot of these processes.
We have a couple of questions regarding the Microsoft platform. So one of the questions is, would you recommend the Microsoft platform as one of the best options amongst other learning platforms? And are there any programming processes that have to be done to integrate or automate some of the administrative tasks using Microsoft products?
So I mean, I've mainly used Microsoft as an example, as that's what we're using at Nottingham Trent University, but I am aware there's other solutions out there. So Google, for example, Amazon, they have their own workspaces as well. When it comes to Microsoft, it's really a seamless integration. So as long as you have access to the Office 365 suite that includes Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams, SharePoint, etc., pretty much all of those components can be automated and integrated. And Microsoft now has implemented generative AI almost seamlessly into everything. So for example, in my case, anytime I receive an email in my Outlook, I have pretty much ChatGPT in Outlook in the email, and I can ask it to generate a summary, to suggest a reply. Anytime I open my Excel, AI is asking me, if I want the data to be visualized, if I have any questions. So I think Microsoft has really made it easy. So, and again, and really the power lies within the users. We've given at Nottingham Trent University power, and we've empowered all managers and users across all departments to make the most of all the tools that Microsoft has enabled.
So the AI engine is kind of like a plug-in then to some of the products?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. I think we have a question here.
Thank you very much. It's working. Thank you very much for the enlightening presentation. Just a comment about the verification of the text that has just been mentioned. I think in the latest conference last month for the International Council of Distance Education in Costa Rica, the main focus of technology companies working in the field of education are currently building their applications with the back engine of AI engine like ChatGPT and so on. What they tried to do for the verification is to link their applications to some of the open source verified platforms that can generate and give you what is a source. So there is an option to show you the source of the information, provided that it was coming from an open source. They cannot definitely give you the source if it is in a Pearson, say, a kind of a membership journal and so on. So this is if we were talking about the verification. I actually have another question here related to personalization. Coming from Hamdani Mohammed Smart University, the first online university in the Middle East, we have a lot of systems, and we can personalize and use the data that we store in personalizing learners' experience. The only obstacle or the option that I'm gonna give an example for, what if I have a student that is aware, or I can verify that he is able to just take half of that course. He already knows the other half. So I want to give him just only half of the course, 7 weeks out of the 8. Another one, he is aware of 5, and this is a kind of a random process. So now how am I going to address this while I am currently being under the Commission of Academic Accreditation, which is following a certain specific standards. So my question here, how I can be flexible while and provide personalized learning. I do have the capability to do that, while the standards I have to follow is a more or less fixed standards. Thank you.
I mean, definitely all personalization has to work within the frameworks of, you know, of the current legislation and regulation that we're working under. So again, when I do talk about personalization, I am focusing on within the parameters allowed. And again, at NTU, we would like to make the experience as personalized as possible as well, but we will still have to work under certain guidelines. So I think if I can, I don't think I have a concrete answer, but the answer would be AI can definitely offer way more personalization options than the current non-AI environment, given the current restrictions, because it can simply speed up and automate certain tasks that would make the current environment slightly more difficult to personalize under the same exact guidelines we're talking about.
We'll take one question from the back here, and then I'll wrap it up with try to combine a couple of questions into the last question. And then we'll be close to 2:20 then.
Okay, I need to stand because I'm sitting in the back. So I'm Saif Al-Suwaidi. I'm from Qatar. I've been a professor at the university for about, 30 years? And I attended so many conferences, including this nice one, beautifully designed and articulated. And I think we lack something. We talk about stakeholders a lot, whether explicitly or implicitly. As you have just mentioned, that we gather and collect lots of data about student satisfactions and all of that, including other stakeholders, other faculty and employers. But seems to me, up to now, most of us, maybe not all of us, most of us as universities are very reluctant to define what is needed. What is needed from perspectives of stakeholders. We go at the speed light in collecting information, data, including specifically data. Then when it comes to analysis, we use the old-fashioned way of analyzing, including some of us in the management, or most of us in the management. We think in the old ways, that we are correct. Students and stakeholders misunderstood, maybe perceived our data or surveys differently, or they don't understand what's good for them when it comes to students, specifically students. As long as we have that sense of being the fathers of students who know what is good for students, I think there will be a huge gap. And this gap is going to expand a lot. And we'll be missed out because we are lucky as management of universities, specifically public institutions. We have not been judged based on the performance in satisfying stakeholders' requirements, needs, and expectations. We are lucky that whether it's board of regents or higher administration or authorities in the countries, they judge us differently. Maybe being peaceful, being lots of students graduating, student success, but not acting as, excuse me, ladies fashion designers. That's where we succeed. If we can keep up with the expectations of consumers and customers, not being sitting in administrations and thinking that is the way that we should act or something like that, is just, well, technology is a style, let's go into style and do the technology, missing the most important thing, satisfying, meeting the expectations, being ahead, like businesses, being ahead of the customers and their expectations. Not only their needs, we have been focusing on their needs, not their expectations. I think we'll be very successful if we can get to the point where we account and capitalize on meeting the expectations of stakeholders. Therefore, maybe my advice, especially with private universities, think of hiring somebody who has worked in the businesses or a stakeholder who owns a share in the company or the university, who is business-oriented, thinking of meeting the expectations of customers, especially when it comes to universities, students, their parents, employers, government, administration, faculty. It's very challenging, but we need to focus. I think the Arabic Association needs to focus on this, meeting the expectations of stakeholders, spending maybe a year or two trying to articulate that, design it well, because that's where we're going to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you. To wrap it up, I think this is a fairly straightforward question, but I've had a couple of people ask that question is, do you think that AI is changing the critical thinking skills of students, and is it for the better or for the worse? And the use of AI tools by students as well. What is a good balance between allowing students to use AI technology versus banning it?
So I think my stance is very simple and straight to the point. AI is advanced so quickly, and it will probably advance even more quickly than we expected. And there's no going back. We've opened the Pandora's box. We can't really ban it. The only choice we have now is to embrace it and, most importantly, understand it. So that's why we encourage all our staff and students to start using AI with a critical mind. By using AI as a tool and not as a replacement, that's when you exercise critical thinking. So for example, when you look at the output, when you refine the output that comes from the AI engine, that's where you actually exercise critical thinking, and you can open new avenues for learning. However, everything needs to be balanced both ways. So again, sometimes staff might think students are ahead of them. Sometimes students might think they don't get enough direction from staff. So I would believe that encouraging both students and staff to fully engage with all the new AI systems is extremely crucial in firstly understanding AI, adopting it properly, and being smart about using it.
Kato, thank you for presenting this topic in a very interesting way, simple enough to be understood, but complex enough to allow us to use it and put it into action in higher education. Let's give Kato a round of applause for an excellent presentation. Thank you.
شكرا جزيلا لكم أيها الحضور العزيز. أرجو التكرم بتأكيد حضور الراغبين في حفل العشاء الرسمي اليوم مساء في مطعم روزنا. عليه نرجو التوجه لمنصة التسجيل. كما ننوه بأنه في الساعة 4:15 سيعقد اجتماع لمجلس إدارة الشبكة العربية لضمان جودة التعليم العالي في القاعة رقم 2 في الطابق الأول. كما نحيطكم علما أيضا بأن هناك 4 جلسات موازية ضمن المؤتمر ستتوزع على هذه القاعة وقاعتين في الطابق الأول. حضورنا الكريم، نذهب وإياكم الآن مع الدكتور خالد بن مسلم المشيخي، عميد كلية الآداب والعلوم التطبيقية جامعة ظفار، والحديث حول دور أصحاب العلاقة في تعزيز عمليات ضمان الجودة والاعتماد.
مساء الخير. بداية أود أشكر الأخ البروفيسور سيف السويدي على المقدمة، لأن فتح مجال أمام الجلسة القادمة دور أصحاب العلاقة والشركاء. وفي نفس الوقت البروفيسور سيف صعب الموضوع علينا شوي، فربما يعني نختار روبوت يتولى العلاقات مع أصحاب العلاقة والشركاء. يشرفني يسعدني الآن أقدم المحاضر القادم دكتور خالد المشيخي. دكتور خالد هو عميد كلية الآداب والعلوم التطبيقية في جامعة ظفار، له خبرة طويلة، حاصل على دكتوراه من جامعة نبراسكا، وله عدة مقالات في مجال التربية والقيادة. قدم دورات متعددة، ما يزيد عن 100 دورة وورشة عمل في مجال التربية والقيادة، وهو المؤسس لبرنامج قادة المستقبل. أشرف على عدة رسائل دكتوراه وماجستير. وراح يتحدث دكتور خالد المشيخي عن موضوع دور الشركاء وأصحاب العلاقة في تعزيز عملية ضمان الجودة والاعتماد. فليتفضل دكتور خالد، حياكم.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the invitation, and I'm really humbled and honored to be here this afternoon. I think I knew my job would be difficult to present in a prestigious conference like this, but Your Excellency, I didn't know it was going to be this difficult. One, I didn't know being funny is a requirement to present in a conference. So I definitely do not meet this criterion. Two, how can you follow a presentation like what we just had? Thirdly, I think Dr. Suwaidi from Qatar made my job more difficult. I'm definitely not a robot, and I don't think I can be if I pretend to be one. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I will get started with the presentation. And before we go ahead and do that, I would humbly request all of you to look to the person either to your left or to your right and ask them the following question. How many new people have you met in this conference? How many people have you introduced yourself to in this conference? How many business cards have you collected, Prof? If it's less than 5, I would highly recommend you do that and get at least 5 new people to your professional network before the end of today. The business we are in is all about people. We can have the nicest programs in the world, we can have the best technologies in the world, but if we do not start collaborating and stop competing, I think we are in trouble. All right. In the next 15 to 16 minutes, I'm going to talk about 4 things. I'll talk about understanding quality assurance and accreditation, key stakeholders in quality assurance and accreditation, the role of stakeholders in enhancing quality assurance, challenges and proposed solutions. So we talk a lot about quality assurance, and we talk about a lot about stakeholders. What is quality assurance? Quality assurance is not a goal that we achieve. It's a process, and it's a never-ending process. It's not an objective that we will achieve by the end of academic year 2023, and that's it. Accreditation, as far as I'm concerned, is only an indicator of quality assurance. It's not the goal. It's not the ultimate goal. If we have any board members or board of governors in the room, I would kindly request you to think of quality accreditations or ranking or whatever process we got involved in as an indicator and not a goal. Why do we involve stakeholders? And in a minute, I'm going to talk about the types of stakeholders and the role of each one of them. We involve stakeholders because this cannot be a one-man show. This business cannot be a vice chancellor's job alone. It cannot be the dean of the college's job alone. Everybody needs to have a say. Everybody needs to be part of this process. We have 2 types of stakeholders. We have internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. These are some of the examples of internal stakeholders: boards, whether it's board of trustees in our case as private institutions, and at least in the system of Omani higher education institutions is concerned, or board of directors in private institutions, management, faculty, staff, students. Everybody needs to have a say, and not during the accreditation process only. Everybody needs to have a say in planning, in implementation, in reviewing, and in improving the system. Faculty members, and in a minute, in the following slide, I'll talk about the type of challenges that we sometimes face with faculty members. A lot of faculty members will say things like, "This is not my job. Why should I do this? I didn't get hired to file papers and follow directions from OAAA QA. I got hired to do research. I'm a researcher, or I'm a teacher. Why should I do this?" And I'm going to talk about in a minute about some of the proposed solutions for challenges like this. Management, whether it's chancellors of universities, deans, deputy vice chancellors, or anybody involved in the management. Management is people's business. And if we fail to include people, I don't know what we're doing. Management is not about the number at the end of the year. How much money are we making if we are a profit associated institution? It's not about how much money we made at the end of the year. Faculty members, a lot of, and I am one of them. I'm a faculty member, and I know the kind of pressure that a faculty member has when they have to produce so many papers so they can contribute to the ranking of the university or the ranking of the college, the community engagement activities that they have to be involved in. So the university or the college has to have some visibility and impact in the community. Staff, I'm referring to non-academic staff here. A lot of them are complaining about the amount of workload and the payment scale. All of these need to be kept in mind, and all of these concerns need to be part of our QA systems. Again, these are 2 different things. QA system, accreditation. Accreditation is nothing but an indicator of a solid QA system. And accreditation can sometimes happen because some institutions decided to do things last minute and show some sort of data or some sort of convincing the accreditation body that we're doing what we're supposed to do. But a solid quality assurance system takes all of these things as indicators for what they are doing. Students, my colleague talked about AI earlier. I think I'm going to quote you when you said students know, and they really do know. We live in a generation where we like to refer to them as digital natives. We are digital immigrants. We're learning their language. We're getting into their world. So with us being immigrants and getting to their world, I think it's only wise to listen to what they have to say, what they need. We have a little bit of I think it's an effective experience of involving students not only in the classroom, what we refer to as educators, as student-centered teaching or student-centered education, teaching and learning. Involvement of students in the decision-making, in panels, in committees, in listening to student advisory councils, and involving them in the decision-making, in the policy-making, and the process of reviewing the existing practices. External stakeholders, and here I'm talking about government bodies, employers, community at large, accreditation bodies, and other HEIs, plus alumni groups or alumni associations. Government bodies, the relationship between higher education institutions and government bodies, I think, need to be of mutual respect, mutual understanding of what's the role of each one of us. Same thing with accreditation bodies. Viewing accreditation bodies, and here in Oman we have OAAA QA as this huge, gigantic monster that's coming after us. I think that's a false impression. I really do. I really, no offense, Your Excellency. I think that's a false impression. A lot of the reviewers of OAAA are faculty members in our local institutions. They are colleagues. I'm one of them, and I don't consider myself a monster. And I don't think OAAA or any other accreditation agencies are coming with this mentality to our institutions. We need to fail them. They're simply looking at a set of standards, jot down as a set of criteria and then indicators, and simply comparing the practices with what's happening. As simple as that. So this blame game between different parties, I feel that it needs to stop. Nobody is trying to personalize results and stuff like that. Employers, my colleagues in the morning have been talking a lot about the employers' expectations. Are we listening to the industry? Are we involving them in advisory boards, in reviewing of curriculum? The micro-credentials, I think, is a very good example of involvement of employers and companies and government bodies. But it's not only about the programs, it's also about research. Are the research projects that are taking place in our higher education institutions in line with what the employers are looking for? Are these the community activities in line with what these companies and these employers are looking for? The community expects a lot from us. The community expects us not only to graduate future leaders of our nations, but also they're looking at us to engage the community in our activities, whether they're social activities, volunteer work, philanthropy, a lot of these different fields. Accreditation bodies, I did talk about it a little bit, and I think the moment we start realizing that accreditation is an indicator, not a goal, a lot of our practices will be modified. Other HEIs, and that's what I was referring to at the beginning of this presentation, please let us start collaborating and stop competing. Let us start collaborating with one another, whether at the national level, regional level, or an international level. We can grow together. The world is full of opportunities for all of us. The world is an open buffet. And I don't think any one of us is gonna, what I'm trying to say is we can coexist. We can live together. We can thrive together. And if we compete, it's nothing but, it's an ugly situation that I wouldn't definitely be interested to be in. Alumni are ambassadors, the ambassadors of our higher education institutions. The moment we involve them, I think, is the moment where we open the door for constructive feedback and opportunities to reflect on our practices. What can all these stakeholders be involved in? They can be involved in the approach part, if we follow the OAAA approach of ADRE, the approach, the planning, the policy making, the strategic planning, and the implementation, definitely, some stakeholders. Of course, we cannot involve all the stakeholders in the implementation phase, but wherever it's relevant, I think it's wise to involve some stakeholders in the implementation part. Some of the stakeholders can be looked at as examiners or reviewers or advisory board members, or as simple as, hello, I have this problem, what do you suggest? But all these things need to be systemized. They cannot be ad hoc, they cannot be by chance. They need to be included in our strategic plans, in our operation plans, in our systems. Some of the challenges is resistance. I think sounds familiar, doesn't it? Yeah? This is the part where you say yes. Yeah? Lack of awareness, limited resources, and conflict. Resistance. Let's take faculty members as an example, especially senior faculty members. A lot of senior faculty members think that this is the accreditation requirements or the quality assurance requirements are new, and we didn't used to have this. When I was in X university, or when I was a student in Y university, we didn't have this. Why should we have this? And I'm going to propose a solution to this in a bit. Lack of awareness. Some people or some stakeholders simply don't know. They don't know what the requirements of the quality assurance are. And they don't know what the requirements of accreditations are. Limited resources, whether those resources are financial resources or human resources or technical resources or infrastructure or whatever resources that might be applicable. Conflicts, whether conflicts management or governance to management, management to staff, staff to students, or between institutions or with government bodies and agencies. And here are some proposed solutions. Start with a strong why. Make sure that everybody understands why we're doing what we're doing. If we have a strong why, then it's definitely easier to convince all the involved stakeholders. Number two, consistency. It cannot, accreditation requirements or quality assurance requirements cannot be a fantasy of a vice chancellor or a dean or a dream that they had at night and they came to the office next morning thinking that let's do this, let's have this initiative. This is my phone telling me that I need to stop talking. And number three, systematic approaches. As I said, all of these things need to be included in our plans, in our policies, in our systems. A strong why, consistency, systematic approaches. These are the four things that I talked about in this presentation: understanding quality assurance and accreditation, key stakeholders involved, the role of each stakeholder, challenges, and proposed solutions. And since 8:30 this morning, I've met a lot of people, and a lot of people from different countries and different nationalities. So I thought I would end my presentation with a slide like this. So shukran, gracias, merci, danka, terima kasih, bahut shukriya, tashakkur, and I'll be more than happy if I can be of any help answering any question. Thank you very much.
شكرا جزيلا. ننتقل بكم الآن إلى الأستاذ الدكتور إبراهيم آل سليمان، عضو مجلس إدارة المجلس الأوروبي لكليات ومعاهد إدارة الأعمال الرائدة، والحديث حول تطور التعليم في العصر الرقمي.
Thank you, Dr. Khaled, for this provocative talk. Actually, I need to get 5 cards distributed from my cards and collect 5 cards. It's our pleasure now to introduce Dr. Ibrahim Sulaiman. Dr. Ibrahim Sulaiman, by background, is a medical doctor. He is into dermatology and maybe cosmetics, so he's going to make the accreditation looks very nice and good. He is a board member of European Council for leading business schools. Significant experience in accreditation in different countries, Latvia, Malta, Switzerland, and Belgium. And he's going to talk about the transforming of education in the digital era. So welcome, Dr. Ibrahim Sulaiman.
Thank you very much. Special thanks for the invitation. Okay, do you hear me? Good. Okay, thank you very much for the invitation. To be honest, yesterday I had totally different presentation in my mind, but after the discussion I had with the colleagues here, I completely changed my mind about the presentation, and I will keep the same slides, but I will talk a bit something different, which is matching more or less the current situation facing most of, let's say, the countries who are involved in this meeting. Because as I faced that almost every, okay, I would say 80%, they are somehow not yet ready for implementing the new education, the new AI, the VR, AR, which we'll talk about them now. That's why I think we should go more in details about how this can really help and support the student in the future. Okay, so just a small background about me. I am a medical doctor, as Dr. Benyas told about. I am co-founder in the ECLBS in Latvia and board member in many institutions worldwide, and here's just my email if somebody is interested to contact me. Good. So in the start, before we are speaking about digital education, we should maybe somehow remember the history of education completely. So if we talk about like 1,500 years ago, nobody was studying from books. People were going from country to country to get educated by specific educator. And when on that time was the idea about I would study from books, it was a horror. And it was something new era to study from books. So today as well, we are facing the same situation by moving from printed books into digital life. So what happened before, I believe it's happening now. And this is coming. Either we like or we dislike, it is coming. So there is nothing what we can do about it. We simply should go further with the situation and adapt ourselves to the current era. So in digital education, there are many advantages. And here I will just touch shortly some of the main advantages. The main advantage, actually, it is increased accessibility. which is leading criteria or leading cause why many institutions are using digital education, because they can have more or higher number of students in the same group. So as a faculty member, if I will be sitting and teaching in a classroom, maybe I will have like 20, 30. In the old universities, you might have like 100, 200 students. But at the moment, with the digital education, you can have thousands of students in your online room. One university in Turkey, they have in one classroom 35,000. One educator is doing them for the teaching. They have a lot of tutors. The AI is doing a lot of job as a reviewer, but the teaching itself is done only by one person for 35,000 students on the same time. As well, personalized learning. You would tell me you cannot personalize for 35,000 students. Yes, for sure not. But in general, during digital education, you can see as well the need of each student. You can analyze each single student, and also the AI itself or the new technology and platform, they are giving as well analyzation for each single student, how he or she is doing on this course. As well, they are analyzing their answers. For example, you need to watch lecture ABC, and then you need to write an essay of 500 words about what you have learned. And then the technology itself analyzes the results of what you have wrote, and then it gives to your tutor or your expert where should be improvement for this specific student. As well, in digital education, you can enhance collaboration. Many students are shy to communicate in person. Many cannot talk to each other. But in digital life, no one is shy. Everybody can chat. The same we can see now today. There were like this QR code where you can send a question, and the questions were endless. Everybody sending question. If it will not be this case, and the question will be only by raising hands, believe me, the question will not be more than 20%. I believe that's the reality. The last one which I will talk about is flexibility and convenience. As a digital learning, you can study from anywhere. You don't need to travel. You want to have British education, you can have it from here from Oman. You want to have Australian education, you can have it from here from Oman. So you are flexible to take any education you want from anywhere. You are on vacation with your family, please, just keep going. And to achieve these results, there are many tools. I will not go in details in the tools of digital learning because I will need like 3-4 hours. But the main tools, what we are using in the digital learning are, you need to have computer, you need to have good internet connection, and the remaining is done by the institution. So as a learner, you have as well a lot of online resources, and at the same time for you as an institution, you can offer for your students a lot of sources. There are a lot of open sources where the student can go and study. The same case, if you are a student, something which you are not able to cope with, there are a lot of open sources. Very challenging point in the modern education is VR, AR, and MR, which I don't have here on the slide. So virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. Many institutions already implemented this kind of education. Virtual reality, it is, you are living in virtual life. You go in your place, you have the cam, you have the heads on your ears, and then you are totally involved. You are not in this life, you are in the virtual life. You see your friends face to face, you are discussing with them, you make tour together, you can have party together. You are completely in virtual life. Augmented reality, it is somehow smaller, or you are in this life, in real life, but you have the cam and you can see. So it is just like more transparent, and you can have virtual situation in real life. The MR, or mixed reality, it is mixing between both situations. The other point, which is gamification. I don't know if you hear about gamification. I asked many people here. It was something new for many of them, like Minecraft. Many schools now implementing Minecraft in many countries. I didn't see anyone here who dealt with it till now, but I believe this will be the future of child education, where the student or pupils, let's say, because this Minecraft and gamification are usually used for kids education. From now it's used between class 1 till class 6. I believe it will be implemented further in higher education later on. They are playing games. It is completely games with pedagogic learning and pedagogic outcome. So this, all the AR, VR, MR, or gamification, they are not here to let you to be prepared for the quiz. They are not here to prepare you for exam. The main thing of education, it is not the exam itself, but it is getting the knowledge. And they can see during this game if you are achieving the expected result, which is asked from you during the game, then it is for them a proof that you have achieved the learning outcome. So there is, in such cases, sometimes no direct exam, but the exam itself, it's one kind of the game, which is now in Europe, in many countries, start to be approved, acceptable, recognized, and accredited. I'm not sure how long it takes till this kind of education spread among all countries. Okay, so I will go quick because I don't believe there is much time. As already my colleague spoke before about adaptive learning, I will not go so much in details because it has been already touched by a colleague before spoke about AI. So basically you can make individualization. As well, you have a real-time feedback, which is very important. Like when you are studying in normal school, university, or whatever, you give the paperwork for your teacher. And then till the teacher correct it and give you the feedback, sometimes it takes weeks. We have been all in standard university, and sometimes till you get a feedback, it takes weeks. Here with the AI, and especially if the institution, they have both tutor who is analyzing directly your answer and give you immediately feedback. And there's sometimes you have like MCQ questions where there is already the answer written directly inside the questions. And when you answer it wrong, you get directly the feedback. This is increasing your chance to achieve what you want to learn. Because if you study something and after 1 week I come to tell you, you have been answering giving a wrong answer, probably you forgot what you answered last week. But if you have it directly in real-time feedback, then it is improving your chance. Okay, I cannot touch all the points, it's too long here. Continuous improvement. This is very important point, which I believe is challenging as well for the accreditation bodies. Here, I will maybe end with this point. a lot of accreditation bodies giving accreditation for the program, let's say for 5 years, for 6 years, for 7 years. But if I am having an IT program, you give me accreditation for 5 years. Seriously? I mean, the IT which I have today in 6 months, it's history. That's why somehow the accreditation should be adapted to the new situation. We cannot keep our old standard in accreditation. It should be adapted. Maybe not in all programs, but in some specific programs, especially when it's coming to touch IT. Now, I know in one country of Europe, in Lithuania, they having anatomy in medical university, anatomy, full anatomy you study in VR. You don't go to university. Anatomy first and second year in medicine, you do not go to university. You do it all online, approved, accredited from Ministry of Education, recognized worldwide. Yes, okay. So I will end with this. Okay, I have a lot of slides. So if you just allow me 1 second to invite everybody to join us, our next conference, ECLBS, which we will do it in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, in the 8th till 9 November. It will be our pleasure to welcome everybody of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ibrahim, for the wonderful presentation and mentioning and elaborating the benefits of AR, VR, and MR. Dr. Khalid, thank you again for the presentation. Probably I will kick off by 2 short questions until we get the questions from here. Khalid, you've mentioned stakeholders for the universities. Who are they and what are the challenges and what are the resistance and how you solve it? Can you tell us who are the stakeholders for the accreditation agencies and how can they benefit from your thoughts on dealing with the stakeholders?
Thank you very much. Hello again, everybody. I think this conference is a good example of involvement of all stakeholders when it comes to accreditation agencies. I think accreditation agencies, the stakeholders vary. Higher education institutions are definitely key stakeholders, but also the public. They need to protect the interest of the public. They need to gain the trust of the public. And I think trust is a key word. Trust, you cannot ask people to trust you as an institution or as an individual. Only through actions and through consistent actions, people will trust. I think involvement of higher education institutions, involvement of directors, review directors, and external review directors, and other peer accreditation agencies, these are key stakeholders. But there are also a lot of other indirect stakeholders like the employers and people like that.
Still, we have no questions here. I think people are urgently thinking of the break. But Dr. Ibrahim, you've mentioned your medical background and you've mentioned anatomy teaching. To what degree you think AR, VR, MR, and the use of technology will help in clinical medicine teaching and in preparing the patient, the physicians to be really advocate and caring for patients?
Actually, it is difficult to answer this question, but I just read some days ago in European Oncology journal, new AI technology is implemented now to detect skin tumor. I am myself dermatologist, and the new technology, what they implemented is detecting melanoma 100%. They are detecting current cancer 99.5%, and pre-cancer 92%. The best dermatologist, the best dermoscopist worldwide is not detecting more than 80%. This can be an answer, I believe.
Thank you. Do we have any question from the audience? Please go ahead, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you for organizing this conference. And I just start from where Dr. Khalid has just finished. He said this is the best example of involving stakeholders. While I do agree with you, Dr. Khalid, I think since the morning we had Professor Cynthia mentioned we need to look at our success in our students. You, Dr. Khalid, mentioned the students are a very important internal stakeholders. Dr. Ibrahim mentioned that we need to empower learners. However, we as HEIs, managers, quality assurance agencies, or the decision makers, how really do we involve the students? How much are our students involved in the whole process? I mean, there might be just some policies which acknowledge the attendance of students in our governance of boards in the form of student advisory councils. But how much really do we take from them? How much do we seriously listen to them? Are we only engaging them to say that, yes, we have students represented in our boards? Is it only tokenistic kind of involvement to show others to tick the list? Yes, we have students. Do we involve them only in law politics to fix the toilets and, you know, some small issues, and then we say, yes, the students are involved? Do we use them to shift the blame from all the students? So we shift the blame from ourselves to these groups, the student advisory councils I mentioned. Do they really participate with us in setting the agenda of what is going to be discussed? Do we really take them seriously? If we really want to have quality and make implementation from whatever we are presenting here, then we need to ask ourselves and see, where are our students? Where are they? And I really would love to have seen some of them are attending here in this very important conference. Do we have any students being invited from the higher education? I think the answer is no. I'm not sure if this is a question or a comment, but this is something that I wanted to share since this has been brought from all the presenters since the morning. Thank you.
Microphone for Dr. Nadia, please.
Actually, we invited students, and there will be a presentation from the student tomorrow, inshallah.
Dr. Faisal.
شكرا دكتور نادية. دكتور خالد تفضل.
Dr. Faisal, thank you very much for your passion, and I know how passionate you are about student involvement, and I know your PhD dissertation is also in a similar topic. So I fully agree with you. And again, back to what I said earlier, I think the involvement of students at the moment varies from one institution to another. I also believe that we are headed in the right direction. As I said earlier, quality assurance is an evolving journey. It's a journey, it's not a destination. But also part of stakeholders' involvement and part of involving stakeholders at different stages is also feedback from a faculty member like yourself. This is, I think, a very valid point that needs to be considered by all of us. It's not only the accreditation agencies, institutions, but again, back to my presentation, I think the question is, do we have a strong why? Why are we doing what we're doing? If we're doing it to tick a box, then I think we're doing something wrong. I'm not talking only about involving students, I'm talking about involvement of all the stakeholders. If we are calling employers to advisory boards just to show and post a few pictures on social media, then we're doing it for the wrong reason. I think the question is, why are we doing what we're doing? And it's an invitation to all of us to reflect on our practices. So I fully agree, Dr. Faisal.
Fantastic, Dr. Khalid. Any other comments or questions? Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you both, Dr. Khalid and Dr. Ibrahim. Well, the comment about Dr. Ibrahim's presentation towards the end of it, he mentioned something about the accreditation bodies offering accreditation for 5 years or 6 years or 4 years. Actually, in most cases, they are listed in a way that they will be there is an annual kind of follow-up. It's not just given the accreditation and they will leave it for that lengthy time. So, for example, in my accreditation body in Jordan, if we give a 5-year accreditation for an agency or an institutional program, we have an annual follow-up. If we, for example, in the AI or in the computer science, for example, or engineering, if we find something loose after a year and there's no kind of good implementation, we can stop it or we rearrange the whole thing again to make sure that they are implementing and following up on that kind of thing. So, this is what we have in practice. And for Dr. Khalid, what he mentioned about the idea of a trust is highly important. Without a trust, we cannot get a quality assurance as needed. I'm not sure about the institutions in Oman, but in Jordan, for example, in every university, there has to be an office, if not a deanship, for quality assurance and accreditation. And recently, 5 years ago and until now, there has to be a quality assurance and accreditation office in every college. So it has become a culture because everybody, a dean or a vice dean or department, he should know about the details and he can follow up and he presents his case to the dean and to the dean's council so that everybody would be sure about what is happening there. So there is no lack of awareness, but there is a good kind of awareness about it. And as I mentioned in my comment earlier, actually, in the past it was a burden. But nowadays, I would say, it has become a culture. And even in the appraisal system for faculty members, they have to play a role for promotion cases or, let's say, for sabbaticals and so on and so forth. So there is a kind of a procedure in which every faculty would need to handle a particular kind of thing to make sure that he is working in the right path with both quality assurance and accreditation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ghaber. Any other question we have? Dr. Tariq. I know you have questions. Yeah. Okay. Dr. Leila.
Can you hear me now? Now it's okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. My question is for Dr. Khalid. Looking at the other side of the coin, particularly external stakeholders. So many institutions have trouble not just attracting the right external stakeholders to be on their advisory boards, to employ students and so on, but also keeping them engaged. So what, in your view, apart from a strong why, would incentivize external stakeholders who are very busy people to give us their very important feedback and input that most agencies here require as part of accreditation anyway? What can we do to motivate them to engage more?
Thank you very much. I think the answer is establish a relationship that's a two-way street. We cannot just call them when we need them. We also ought to give back to them in terms of involvement of research, our research projects. See, our higher education institutions are built on 3 pillars: research, teaching, learning, and community service. And I think all 3 of them, all of our stakeholders need to play a vital role. How do we incentivize them? Play as think tank institutions for them. Provide them with solutions to their problems. We have excellent researchers in different fields. Let our researchers be involved in the industry and solve some of these issues. Sponsor some of their professional development activities. Provide them with different projects that will save money and time. This is especially the private sector is all about effectiveness and efficiency. Support them achieving their goals so they can support us achieve our goals. It's a two-way street. We cannot just passively sit on our institutions and blaming the employers for not engaging with the universities. The universities need to get out to the community. We need to play a serious role in research, in community service when it comes to these external stakeholders. So in short, I would say solve their problems or play a part in solving their problems so they can play an equal part of solving our problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Khalid. In the interest of time, we have one final question in 1 minute. 2 questions, you can combine the 2 questions together. Okay, one final question هناك.
شكرا سيدي الرئيس، شكرا السادة الأفاضل اللي قاموا بالعرض الجميل حقيقة. سؤالي للدكتور خالد، واعتقد حضرتك أجبت عليه في سؤال السيدة لينا من قليل، ألا وهو مسألة الإقحام الإيجابي لأصحاب المصلحة بمستوياتهم المختلفة، سواء كانوا الداخليين الانترنال أو الاكسترنالز. أنا أتحدث باللغة العربية أوكي ولا نغير على الإنجليش؟ تمام.
تفهم عربي.
عارفك تفهم عربي، لكن في اعتقادي المسألة هي مسألة ثقافة ومسألة تنشئة socialization قد تحتاج بعض الوقت. ثم الجانب الآخر من الموضوع واللي حضرتك أنا أعتقد الآن ذكرته في استجابتك للسؤال الأخير هذا، هو موضوع القيمة المضافة لإقحام الشركاء أو أصحاب المصلحة سواء كانوا داخليين أو خارجيين. احنا الفترة اللي فاتت كان عندنا المخطط الاستراتيجي في الجامعة الليبية الدولية للعلوم الطبية في بنغازي في ليبيا لخطة العمل أو استراتيجية العمل 24-30. كان واحدة من المعضلات خلينا نقول أو الأوبستيكلز، ما نبيش نقول ريزيستنس، ولكن أعتقد هو الفهم الحقيقي للقيمة المضافة لمساهمة أصحاب المصلحة بذلك. قد يحتاج هذا الموضوع إلى لا أعرف، لكن هل هو برمجة خاصة، برامج خاصة، level of awareness اللي حضرتك يعني تفضلت وأشرت له في عرضك، ولكن هذه الحقيقة من تجربة فعلية بالفعل لقينا مستوى الاندماج أو الإقحام أو التفاعل ليس بالمستوى اللي كنا بالفعل تمنى. في هناك نوع من الردود الأفعال، ولكن لم تكن بالمستوى اللي كنا نحن حقيقة تمنينا. أشكركم.
شكرا جزيلا.
أشكر مرة ثانية سعادة الدكتور خالد المشيخي والدكتور إبراهيم سليمان على عرضهم الشيق، وأيضا أشكركم على تفاعلكم وأسئلتكم المباشرة والحية والصعبة. ما في أسئلة فيرتشوال جت، فما أعرف
دكتور محمد ممكن كلمة؟
ماذا حدث اللي فيرتشوال؟ يعني نختصر لأن الآن في بريك وفي اجتماع آخر، فشكرا جزيلا ونترك يعني المجال لمناقشات إن شاء الله في جلسة الاستراحة. مشكورين.
حضورنا الأعزاء، بهذا نختتم الجلسة الثانية من المؤتمر، ونذكر مرة أخرى بأن هناك 4 جلسات موازية ستقام في هذه القاعة وقاعتين في الطابق الأول. كما أرجو التكرم بتأكيد الراغبين في حضور حفل العشاء الرسمي اليوم مساء في مطعم روزنا، عليه نرجو التوجه لمنصة التسجيل. كما ننوه بأنه في 4:15 سيعقد اجتماع لمجلس إدارة الشبكة العربية لضمان جودة التعليم العالي في القاعة رقم 2 في الطابق الأول. ونتقدم بالشكر الجزيل لكم جميعا لإثرائكم هذا المنتدى وهذا المؤتمر، نعم، بما يحقق التطلعات المنشودة له. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.